Well, that's the White Heather image gone, isn't it?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. What is it you particularly object to in the sort of traditional view that I suppose the English have of the Scottish, you know, the sort of kilt and the sporran and all that?
Yeah, well, it's completely false. The wee cottage in the Highlands and the purple heather and my granny's healing hame. It's not on. The guys who sing it, they live in the West End of Glasgow, the blocks who are doing all the singing, you know. And a wee cottage in the Highland cost you about 40 grand since the oil came. It's not really on anymore. And all that gear they wear, there's all sort of English theatrical ideas, you know, nothing to do with Scotland.
Mm. Does it very much reflect then the current mood, your attitude, the general mood in Scotland, do you think?
I would imagine so. Well, since, you know, like, we've got some prosperity, maybe, coming along the way, it's, you know, people's attitudes are changing all the time. Mm. And they don't tolerate that kind of stuff anymore, the collie dog and the waterfall. Some guy yodeling about Heather. I mean, what's it all about? I mean, it's like you going to the London Palladium and there's Morris dancers clattering about the place, you know?
People say, I've always said, of course, about Glasgow, where you come from, or the part of Glasgow that you come from, that you have to be a comedian to live there. Would that be true, would you say?
Oh, well, you sort of have to be able to take a joke, you live there. Yeah, it's a crazy place. It's a very grey place. If you've never been there before, it would be depressing, I would think, you know. It's something like coming into Newcastle, you know. That's a feeling I get going to Newcastle. I should imagine people coming to Glasgow get the exact same feeling. But it's a funny place. There's good patter in Glasgow. Better than the comics on the stage. It's all over the place. And there's a guy came up to me in the street. Oh, I hope I can get away with this. It's a beauty. And he said, "Hey, Biggin." You know, in Scotland they call me Biggin. And I'm not very big, but everybody there's awful wee, you know. But he said, "Did you hear about the guy had done his wife in and that?" And I said, "No." He said, "This guy was going out to meet his friend in the pub, and he went down. He said, 'Oh, hello, how's it going?' He said, 'Fine, fine.' He said, 'How's the wife?' He said, 'Oh, she's dead.' He said, 'What?' He says, 'Dead, do it again. Dead. I murdered her. Forget it.' She said, 'Kidding me on?' He said, 'No, it's morning. Dead.' He said, 'Look, I'm not talking to you if you keep on talking like that.' He said, 'Well, please yourself. I'll show you if you want.' He said, 'Ah, show me.' So we up to his tenement building, through the close, that's the entrance to the tenement. Into the back green, into the wash house, and sure enough, there's a big mound of earth. There's a bum sticking out of it. He says, 'Is that her?' He says, 'Aye.' He says, 'Where'd you leave a bum sticking out for?' He says, 'I need somewhere to park my bike.'
How important was the childhood that you had to your source of humour?
All important, I should imagine. It's in my act, you know, I spend about 2/3 of my act talking about my childhood and various things that happened to me or to people around me. And a horrific thing happened to me one day. I was born in this tenement in Dover Street in Anderston in Glasgow, down at the dockside. And about 5 years ago, I was at a party in the house of a fella called Andy Moyes, a folk singer. And we were drinking an awful lot. And in the morning, I had a terrible hangover, and I went over to his little sink at the window, and it looked right onto the street I was born. I was washing my hands, and the building I was born in fell down. They were demolishing the place, and it was only the front, but you couldn't see that from where I was. Crash. That summed up exactly how I felt at the time. The house you're born in falling up. I thought it was the end of the world or something.
But what sort of a childhood was it, really?
It was okay. It wasn't as rough as I say in my records and things. That was other guys. Like it. Yeah, like we were quite well off, I suppose, compared to the rest of them. But the other guys were all pretty scruffy. And the big holes in the jumper, you know, and the jaggy back haircuts and the wellies. And everybody was pretty awful. But we had about 3 adult wages coming into the house, you know. So it was fair enough for me, but it was the things I sing about are things I saw when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's like what?
Well, just as I say, like the wellies and these maniac school teachers, you know. Oh, these, you know, the middle-class ladies coming in and saying, now, William, sit down and put your hands behind your back. You sit all day like that. You know, and I say, your writing's bad. I say, my hands are behind my back. And singing these songs like Mary's Wedding, you're sitting in the class, right, you get Wellingtons on.
You wear Wellingtons all the time?
Till I was 19, you know. I didn't think they looked very trendy, but I loved the noise they made against my legs when I was dancing. So you know, you're sitting there, and you like your wellies are up to there, and your shorts are down to there. You got a big hole in the jumper, snotties all over the place. And the guys with impetigo had leatherette pilots' helmets on. You know? They used to go putting their knees kidding on they were Douglas Bader, you know. Repulsive things that made your ears all sweaty. You couldn't even throw it away. Your name and address was inside. A leatherette boomerang, you know. But you're sitting there and the teachers are giving you songs like Step Wi' Gailey, On We Go. You're sitting with this gear on. You couldn't step gaily if you tried, you know. I hated it.
You started work, first of all, didn't you, in the shipyards?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Well,
what was that like? I mean, was that a sort of source of your... I think it was fairly rough life, that, wasn't it?
It was, it's rough when you think of it. At the time, it didn't seem rough. Like, going into the shipyards was a perfectly natural thing for me. It was like somebody from Aberdeen going in a fishing boat, or somebody from Yorkshire going down a mine. It was there. I was born, there was a shipyard down the road. When I went to school, there was a shipyard down that road, and there was shipyards everywhere. And I wanted to be an engineer. And I had an engineering certificate when I left school. And I went up to the shipyard and I said, I'd like to be an engineer. He said, yeah, sit over there. And Mr. Hughes will come and get you. Sat waiting for Mr. Hughes. He said, this way. And I had welding gear. And I said, this is great, you know. All right, just start there and see if you can stick them together. Sure. And after about 4 days, I discovered I was an apprentice welder. You know, I thought this was what engineers. I'd been, you know, an engineer for a yellow bus, you know. I became a welder. That's true. I thought I was becoming an engineer. Yeah. Just shift you about like cattle. Right? How many joiners do we need? Aye, send the engineer.
And then you went in the army, didn't you, as well?
No, I joined the territorials. There was some guys in the work, and I was a bit fed up, you know, with the normal humdrum thing. And there was this big sort of straight guy, always marching about the place. And he said, you should come and join the paratroopers, make a man again. I said, fair enough. And I went up and I got the King's Shilling, and away we went. It was a kind of bizarre episode in my life. Because I remember at one point, we were in the Karinya Mountains. They took us to Cyprus, you know. And we parachuted into Morphew Bay. And I sat on like a half brick, right at that wee bone at your backside. So I was walking like a giraffe having a drink for about 3 days over these Karinya Mountains, chasing a regiment called the Green Howards. And we caught one guy. And he worked beside me in the same shipyard. And I was sitting up a mountain. I could have ambushed him in the canteen, you know.